We've got some market research. And guess what? For all of us attending, we're going to be mastering it today. And so we brought on some masters to help us master some market research. I wish I could have had like more alliteration there, but we're working on it on our PMM skills right off the cuff, right? So this is not a messaging thing, is it? Yeah, we're research. So, all right, let's jump into it. We've got a few questions from the audience. So the audience went through, you have put in a bunch of questions. They've been upvoted. I went through, tried to categorize them, find the right themes, and we're going to kick off. We got roughly 4 to 5 questions that we're going to handle in this Q&A side of things. And then we're going to turn it over to you on the back half. The back half will be live Q&A. So start adding in your questions, upvote those, as well as using that Q&A function. So first question that we have is really thinking through the research. It can come from like so many different sources. We know this. Stored in many different tools, as we know this. And then we've also got many different forms, right? So text, it could be audio, it could be a video, it could be a survey, right? So lots of different ways that it can come. So first question over to our panel here is like, how do you go about organizing? How do you manage this? How do you share your findings at a very high level? This is like really the heart of what we're going to be talking about today. So I will kick it over to Nisha. Do you want to get us started? Because you're right next to me, and then we'll kick it over around round robin.
Sounds good. Sure. What I'll say is that yes, it's research is one thing. If it's not shared and distributed across the org, it's not being useful. What we do at HubSpot is a few different things. We have a central repository. We use Seismic. So all our buyer and seller collateral and enablement content is there, and that's our single source of truth. We also house on that demos so that a rep that needs to learn about a product or a feature or how to talk about it, we bring them live demos from sales specialists, from GMs, etc., and put it on Seismic so you can very easily go there and get up to speed on products easily. The other thing we do is that we have bi-weekly newsletters. It's pretty heavily subscribed to. I'd say about half the company, if not more, subscribes to it. And that's kind of a roundup. You expected bi-weekly, it comes to your mailbox. And then more for instant answers, we have a Slack channel, which is just like a slash competitive Slack channel that reps can go, they use quite heavily to get questions answered whenever they want. And I'll say off late, we've started trying to bring it more using AI a lot more. So now we have our competitive Slack channel that gets answered by a bot. And the bot is basically researching all the information we have and like giving them on-demand answers, which has proven quite helpful. And we're also putting all our research in Claude. So Claude is something we have an enterprise license to. So anytime anybody's doing any like they need to write a memo, they need to write a deck, all the research is there, all the projects are there, so it's kind of available to them when they want it. So that's kind of a roundup. I hope that's helpful.
Nice. Yeah, let's kick it over to Sahil. How are you doing over at Freshworks?
Thank you, JD. Thanks, Nisha. No, this is a topic which is very dear to my heart, partly because I used to lead product marketing for Qualtrics's market research portfolio. So I've used market research not just as a consumer of market research, actually tried to sell them to other companies. Fundamentally, I think the first question I ask myself is what kind of research are we trying to organize? Because there is a difference between customer research, brand research, and general market research. And I feel like a lot of people confuse these terms. Customer research is complicated because there are so many different listening posts you have across the company, but it's also limited because it's only limited to your customer base. Market research in its truest form is when you talk to prospects and the general market, and those research can take different forms, whether it's message testing or generally trying to figure out how they will react to certain value propositions. And brand research is you poll the entire market and say, are you aware of my brand? What impression, perception, affinity do you associate my brand with? And these are different techniques. These are different blast radiuses of research. And so the primary way we organize ourselves is the type of research we are conducting. And they inform different activities. Brand research informs your brand awareness and the campaigns you're running. General market research informs your messaging and a little bit more ICP focused campaigns that you're running. And customer insights actually inform product development and tell you everything you should be doing next. So we do not try and, firstly, like to your question, we let all the research sources aggregate into a single place. But we start by appreciating the different jobs to be done that these research sources have. We have a list of all listening posts across the company. So ideas can come from our customer community. Ideas can come from our frontline reps, AEs, AMs, CSMs, SEs. Ideas can come from our customer advisory board. So the goal here is to aggregate all of those insights. In fact, product marketing plays a little bit of a synthesizer role. And then we become sort of the disseminator of insights across the company. Whether that's through newsletters, it is through Slack channels, particularly on competitive research. Lots of people are interested in understanding what's happening in the market, whether it's through formal readouts, which we organize around certain topics. So that's a big focus for us. So essentially, it's listen to all the listening posts, become an aggregator of sorts, and then separate it out. The answer does not lie in a single tool. We do appreciate there are best of breed tools out there, but the art here lies in your ability to distill the insights and craft it in a message which lands very well with the internal customers and the internal stakeholders. So that's how we think about research. A lot of our emphasis is on the internal customer. Who is it for? Is it for UX product people? Is it for marketing campaigns people? Is it for our sales people? The last thing I'll say, just in terms of organization, is we have different teams across the company who do research. The UX research team sits in product, market research sits here, customer insights, VOC may sit elsewhere. We actually create a little bit of a committee where all of these teams are meeting on a weekly basis, sharing notes, trading insights, sometimes pooling the ideas. And so we do have a research center of excellence, but we appreciate and respect and honor the fact that there are different research jobs to be done. They may be a little bit decentralized, but they're not working in isolation. They're talking to each other all the time. I hope that's helpful. And over to you, Nate.
Thank you. Yeah, I totally agree with the way you think about like what is the job to be done for the research. And I think like continuing that, what you sort of mentioned as well, is like who is it for and how is it going to be used? We at Airtable, which is probably not going to surprise anyone, to house and store all of this. But I think what's important is who is the ultimate consumer of this, and a research report can have different consumers. I think you sort of talked about how customer research can obviously drive product decisions. It can also drive insights about how we should position our product if we can use the words that our customers are saying about it. So the way I think about it and the way we organize it at Airtable and some of the other roles I've had is we do think about the ultimate consumer of it, right? So what are we going to give sales? What does sales need? What is it insights so when they go into a customer or to an industry or a vertical that they can show that they understand the problems, that they can resonate with that person? Is it for our product team so that when they're building their product requirement docs, that they can actually relate it to what the buyers are thinking about in that space? And so as we pool different sources of resources, I think, Sahil, you went through all the sort of different types, like that's the way that we kind of organize it, is who's the ultimate consumer of it? What is the type of thing that they're going to use it for? It's kind of like crack it up or break it and organize it for those folks in the right way.
Nice. This is great. Really great answers from the full panel here. The next piece of it, Nishi kind of mentioned some of this with Claude, right? So everyone was given lots of questions. AI, I mean, you cannot escape it. It is coming. It's here. Right? It's going to take all of our jobs, as they say, right? Or it's going to augment us and make us that much faster and better. But yeah, I think the main question is, should I just be asking ChatGPT and Claude to do my market research for me? Yeah. No. But I think the question for a lot of this is, how are you using AI to do some of the market research? How are you using it to conduct research, facilitate, summarize, aggregate? And so, yeah, just kind of thinking through, where do you see AI's role within market research? Nate, you're off mute, so I'm going to kick it back over to you. You can go first this time.
I mean, I think my first answer is yes, you should start with one of the LLMs if you're thinking about research, like start there. That is an obvious, but that is a great use case of AI in general, but start there, see what it starts to tell you. There are obviously going to be limitations. It may not be as specific as you need. if you're trying to get message testing, unless you've built some sort of agent that can actually understand your audience and give you feedback that way, you're still going to want to go in front of an audience. If you're trying to do brand tracking, as like Sahil said, like it's not going to solve for that. But I think if you're trying to figure out where to start, it's a great place to start. And that's definitely how I use it. I'll probably doing some sort of market research through one of the LLMs every single day at different varying levels, right? Is it just like trying to get a gut check on something I'm building for a deck for one of our leaders? Is it a gut check on like, hey, we're trying to do our plan for the next quarter or a month, and I want to just make sure that this idea still resonates. So from a research standpoint, I use it all the time. And I think you should incorporate it into your workflow if you're not, but just understand where the limitations are, right? If you need to get really specific about your product, your message, your customers, there's obvious limitations. It's not going to be that direct. But I think there are ways for you to get there, and that can help you when you sort of see what it brings you. You know, when, okay, maybe I have a more focused project that I can go take to an agency or some sort of outside place to help me with some of that work. So yeah, it looks like you're off, so I'll pass it back to you.
Yeah, we have I shared a lot of sentiment with Nate. We have a sort of a philosophy here, which is we will do what we are good at, and we will rely on experts for what they are good at. And so instead of building a lot of AI-based market research techniques in-house, we know there's a ton of AI tools out there who can perform better in market research. We're letting the experts pick that. Like, we are not expert market researchers. We're not experts in survey methodology or market research design. And so when we work with an agency to do a brand tracking, we ask them hard questions about how they're driving efficiency through AI. Are they cleaning up better responses? Are they finding better sample, for example? When we do message testing, a lot of these message testing tools out there are relying on AI for analysis, for cohort identification. So a lot of the AI is sort of outsourced to the experts. The big difference here is we do use a lot of Perplexity and just ChatGPT deep research mode, but I don't see them more as market research. I see them as like general productivity AI assistants, which happens to give you a lot of market research as a starting point to the question that you're trying to answer. So, it could be, like when one of our competitors launched something, we were studying their announcements. We fed all of it to ChatGPT and we said, can you summarize this for us? And it worked beautifully. So it's a really good summarizer. It solves for the cold start problem. And it helps you sort of just be efficient with this approach. And that's how we think about bringing AI to our general productivity workflows, not necessarily to market research in general. But that's sort of our approach. That's the philosophy we have. We do rely on a lot of agencies and vendors who are experts in their domain. Like Gong, for example, is a fantastic market research tool because you get to listen to calls and synthesis and transcripts. But Gong is essentially an expert at call transcription and revenue intelligence. And for us, instead of us ever trying to create a tool or use AI to record all our sales conversations, we have something that is readily available to us. So it's a little bit of a best of breed approach, but it's working for us, especially when it comes to AI and market research.
Yeah, I would say not dissimilar, right? But from a HubSpot point of view, what we do is it's really good at like, hey, we were looking to look at how do we introduce usage-based billing pricing for our own AI products, as an example. It's a really fast way to get, hey, these are my top competitors. These are the 10. These are non-linear competitors. Give me a breakdown of how each of their pricing works, right? So versus if you think about the scenario I would have to go research, or somebody in the team would have to go research each one of the sites and each one of the landing pages and kind of get that. What ChatGPT is able to do, or Claude able to do, is very easily put that for me in like a very simple table type of format. So it's making those processes much simpler and much faster. It is also where Sahil was talking about is on when we do customer conversations and we do a bunch of those, it's able to take the transcription and give me themes. What are the top themes? I've had 10 of these conversations. What is similar? What's dissimilar? Call out the highlights for me. What are the words? I think, Nate, you talked about this, that customers are using to describe X feature or X functionality. It gives me that in a much easier time format. So we use it for all of that. We also use it to validate hypothesis. So another example is we had a hunch that one of our product names was not really right. So we just went into Gong and we were like, all right, we scraped Gong to say, pull out all these calls. Let's understand if the names are right or wrong. And was very quickly able to give us where the confusion was, why there's confusion, suggest and give recommendations. So I'd say we use it as a quick partner to get good and quick market research and insights, a good summarization and analysis partner, a partner that's a coach that we can ask questions and get insights from as well. Yeah.
To add one more thing to
Nice.
that, which
Yeah.
I think both you and Sahil mentioned, is that like one thing that is working really well, and we're doing a similar thing, is where when you pull all your UXR research or your Gong calls into some place, some database, like we use Airtable for that too. But the idea is then having to run the AI on top of it is what is really unlocking a lot of insights and stuff for us. Because before, if you just use like a regular Chat GPT instance, it's going to search its knowledge and maybe you'll feed it some things. But if it has all the stuff that you know that's focused on your product, on the research you've done in the past, that's where we're definitely seeing some pretty big, like sort of alpha, if you will, of what we're getting from that.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, Nate. It's all about the context you give it, right? So it's literally you to give it all the data and context or point it to that, and then it's able to do some pretty amazing, outstanding stuff. Yeah.
Great.
Cool. Yeah, well, I'm just going to throw one in that I like, slightly different than what they have mentioned. I really like Notebook LM. If you haven't played around with Google's Notebook LM, you can give it 30 sources. You can give it, which includes like YouTube videos. So, right, talk about like a blog announcement. I can go and get like a 1 hour webinar, right? Drop it in. I can go get like market research. And I say like market research, I know we're talking about it, but like if there's been, let's say like Forrester's written something and it's like a deep dive, you can throw that in. Anyway, now you have like 30 sources. And now you can ask it, put together a brief, put together something. And it's like, wow. And also like that podcast with like those voices is like next level. Like it's so good. But anyway, take a look at that too, because that's really good.
One of the things that we've been doing on sales enablement is we have been started testing Notebook LM for sales enablement. So sales are much easier to, like, as they're going for a run, listen to a battle card or something or with two. So it's actually been really super helpful there.
Yeah, I like that. That's a lot of fun. We have found the same thing because this is actually a good question too. As kind of like let's do like a follow-up deep dive too. And this is something that like Nate had mentioned and just kind of like want us to like go into. We're talking about like who is going to be the recipient of that, and now what do they need? And I think let's go one more step. And it's also thinking about like how do they want to receive it? Is like this is something that as a PMM I've struggled with, right? I've created one pagers that have never been used. I've created slide decks that have never been seen past the third slide, right? So how do you think about creating now the like dissemination of the information in the right format or in the right way, so that way it's digestible, people are getting it and having fun with it? And so Sahi, I'll kick it over to you. Like, how do you think about that?
I wish I could tell you there's an easy answer for that, JD. Solving for organization information problems here. No, I think the answer lies in, frankly, we are inundated with too much information at work. There's Slack, Teams, too many tools. There's SharePoint, Seismic, HighSpot. There's no single answer here. My approach is use all of the above. Cognition and retention requires repetition. And so I don't believe, and we've not seen in our experience, sort of a single bullet, silver bullet that solves for all of this. So the answer lies in obviously synthesis. Don't dump so much information, make it clear and simple. The answer lies in good storytelling, but the answer also lies in repetition. So we have newsletters where we package our insights. We do trainings with sales teams wherever applicable. Not every training can be about net new insights. We do have Slack channels where information is shared as and when it becomes available. People subscribe to it. We encourage conversations. We moderate conversations. We have lunch and learns and brown bags and formal readouts for anyone who wants to join. We do have like executive level readouts of a lot of these packaged insights where we even make decisions. But the answer lies in all of the above. I think the craft as a product marketer lies in storytelling. How do you land it in a manner where it's not dry, but something that people retain, they find it useful. And this is where knowing your internal audience makes a big difference. It's the so what which matters. And we spend a lot of our calories just thinking about who's the audience. Is it product people? Is it salespeople? Even within salespeople, is it CSMs versus AEs? Why would they care about it? How can you make it most engaging for them? Is it generally strategy and biz dev teams, for example? So I don't know if I'm adequately answering your question, but it's all the channels. It's just great storytelling. That's the emphasis.
Yeah, I'll plus one that. I think repetition for sure. I love my sellers, and if any of them ever listen to this, I just know that I have to tell you it 10 times for it to actually make it through your skull.
Oh.
But
Yeah.
I think, and I say that in the nicest way, but the reality is, I think about it, like as a seller, they own what, how many hundreds of accounts, sometimes even more if they're in mid-market or lower. And so what the reality is, you have to figure out ways to make it last and sort of resonate. I think storytelling, as you said, is totally dead on. Like the so what is what actually resonates as well. And I do think the one thing I'll add is something that you said, Nisha, is around starting to populate some of the LLMs with this information, so that, because I think sellers are notorious for needing it when they need it. And so the fact you can give them something, that's another way that like LLMs are actually really good at, is that if you have all that right context in there already and they can ask a question about a deal they're working on, that is a way for us to deliver some of that in the moment, which is often, instead of a Slack, I can now point them to something like that. And that has helped a lot as well.
Yeah, I would agree there, right? Like they are looking for when I'm in the moment. We have standard sales enablement sessions, but unless it's like it's top of mind for me, or I'm in a sales cycle and a prospect is talking about it, it's some of it is lost, right? So I think where our Slack channels have been really helpful and pointing to the LLM data, or with Claude having all the data, is that they can just go, and it's called Sales GPT inside in our org, and like they can just ask that question and then they get the answers. The other way that it's really started, plus one to the storytelling, and Sahil, you said, landing with the customer. So one thing we're really doubling down on is a lot of, especially with AI, like I lead our AI portfolio, is because it's so new, is we have a goal of having 150 customer testimonial stories. So bringing these stories to them, I feel, goes a much longer way, because you're hearing from Reddit, or you're hearing from somebody who's actually using the product versus just the product marketer. That seems to help as well. And reference materials. I mean, I would say like a reference call when they are with the same type of industry person, like if they're in the sales cycle with an insurance and they are looking for exactly that, helping them there helps as well.
Cool. Yeah. Last one I'll say for my tip is song and dance. My enablement meetings are fire. I come in, I've got gifts. I'm like, pay attention, please. And so, yeah. The
See,
storytelling.
no way.
Yeah.
So I have
Yeah.
found somebody in my team had these like $100 pair of sneakers. They do better than like a gift that is thousands of dollars. And I'm like, okay, fine, we'll do that.
Yes. Quizzes, get people calling on people. Yeah. It's like, you never know what you're going to get. And it's like trying to make it as novel because they're inundated, and you'll see it too. If you got, for us, we're a remote team, right? And so you see them over here now, like they're focused, they're chatting, they're doing something. And you're like, I'm going to call on someone right now. I feel like I'm like a teacher, like, hey, you in the back, pay attention, right? But anyway, I say all that with like a joke because we can transition now to some fun live Q&A. We've got a handful of questions here, some really good ones. And so let's start off with this one. This one's from an anonymous person. They said, what systems have you automated with AI for research on an ongoing basis? So maybe you got an agent, maybe just doing some automation and you're doing like some like workflow stuff. I've got something in mind, but if you guys have something, feel free, chime in here. You might want to take it.
Sure. So I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but we basically dump all of our gong calls into Airtable. We also collect feedback from Slack, feedback from customers through our community. It all gets dumped into this sort of base that we have. And then our AI inside Airtable is actually running on it, categorizing it all, pulling out snippets, formatting it, and then views for product people versus marketers. We don't have a view for sales yet. It's really just we share it with product. And I think that's something we're looking at, but it does honestly a huge amount of work to pull it all together. So when I go in and say, hey, we're having an AI launch coming up, which customers have asked about these types of needs or these types of problems, it'll come back and spit me out the customers, who said it, what was the context, and I can actually go reach out and find out more.
I think you guys are very advanced and like that's a fantastic idea, Nate. I like it. I don't think we do a lot of customer listening and insights and gong calls. We haven't automated that, so that's a good tip for me as well. I would say we are right now at the place of the competitive intelligence. Obviously, we have an agent that does that collation for us. It's not groundbreaking, but it's more like because there's so much out there, just keeping our finger on the pulse on the pricing, the packaging, the competitive messaging. We have agents for that help us out, but haven't automated much more there.
I think I'm in the same camp as Nisha here. Nate, you are a trailblazer. No, we have a custom GPT. We're in the process of like rolling out for all marketing. We're trying to feed it sort of our tone and voice, but I wouldn't call that full automation. And when it comes to just market research, we do rely on a lot of compete use cases, but we haven't done like full synthesis of all data and start collating reports from that. But maybe that's the next step.
Yeah, I think the one thing that we have is the messaging. So all our messaging, all our product positioning, all our why we win, all of that are in Claude projects. So that really helps essentially a seller, external, like if our CEO is going outside and like talking at earnings, or she's going to an external, like it's just really helpful to have all those projects there. So when she's looking to put together a memo or even an earnings script, it basically gives her the right verbiage to use. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. And I would agree kind of like what everyone said here. We've done a pretty good job of automating like our internal, right? So maybe like voice of customer kind of stuff. We've done a really good job of being able to synthesize sales calls, customer tickets, and then we use Pylon, which is like this really cool tool. If you haven't seen it, it's like AI first, like customer support tool. Really, really cool. Of like I can go in and prompt it and ask like a customer story, like what I'm looking for, and it will find the customer. So it's like reverse engineering. Instead of trying to find the customer, I can put in the use case and it'll tell me the customers to go reach out to. And you're like, that's sweet. Like that's fantastic. And then we automate that into Slack. And now we have like a weekly voice of customer. You'll be able to see all the requests that were made about the product, blockers, that kind of stuff. So that's pretty cool from like a research side of things, where again, all of us as PMMs, you're like, which call do I listen to? Do I set up listeners? Do I have my keywords set up? Where's that piping into? And now that's like all being condensed and automated in a way that I can now just go look at like one report on Friday and then double click on anything that I like. So really cool to see how workflows and AIs are doing such a great job of automating. And then I love the projects one as well. We're working on that one. We're a little behind, I think, on that one for like org wide. I don't know if you've had any. I would say like it's funny that we're an AI company and we still have some lag on using AI. It's like, come on, team. But let's move on and see what some others. This one has 2 upvotes as well. So this one comes from Renee. What's your criteria for deciding to do DIY your research versus bringing it to an outside researcher? So Sahil, I think you had mentioned you worked with a lot of like agencies and stuff. So I'll kind of turn to you to lead us and kick us off here.
Yeah, I mean, we primarily outsource our research, and every company has a different philosophy. Obviously, I worked at a company which created DIY research tools. We DIY'd a lot of research back there, but fundamentally, it's where we want to spend our time and energies on. And we believe doing research is not a core competency. We have at our disposal large agencies, small agencies, freelancers for discrete use cases, message testing, brand research. Even within customer insights, it's a hybrid model of some DIY and some agency to help us. But that's a primary model. Not to say that it's right or wrong. It's what we have chosen to be, and it's working very well for us.
I would add to that. we primarily do DIY, but we actually are starting to do some more agency now. And I think it's to some extent a question of scale and how big it is and how much is going to affect your, like how it's going to actually drive something inside your business. Like Airtable is still a startup, like we're still somewhat small. And so the impact of a brand report is something that we might try to run more on our own versus if you're at a larger company, a larger scale, it can have bigger impact. So I think about it to some extent that way. Also, ultimately, the question is like, do you have the budget to prioritize something else to focus on, or do you need it in order to do your job, like to build messaging? So I think some of that just going to depend on your situation. We are starting to get more budget to do some of that outside. So I expect my team will shift some of that more outside than maybe we've done in the past. And that allows us to focus on what I would sometimes feel like is more priority as well, Sahil. But yeah, exactly. I think it just, you kind of have to look at what your budget situation is, what your team can prioritize. And then I think ultimately is, what is it going to drive? If it's just for a one-off project, then maybe it's not worth it. But if it's going to drive your whole brand tracking and brand decisions, like that's a really big deal. You can't get that wrong.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I would say +1 to what Nate said, right? Two examples that come to mind. So we basically do, I'd say it's about an 80-20 rule. 80% is probably DIY, 20% for those really big important ones are ones that we choose an external agency. But just to give you the sense of like how important it has to be, it's like we were evaluating as HubSpot in where do we want to absolutely win, and like as a company and the thing that we're going to stand for the next 3 years, no matter who's talking about it, where are those three things that we want to win on, right? So if you look at our website, you look at all our documentation now, it's easy, fast, and unified. But that is something across 8,000 plus employees that we are citing as our differentiators. And we changed our entire company product roadmaps and direction, everything to that. But that was a pretty like high level from the CEO bottom, like decision that we made and said, all right, we're going to invest here. Or the pricing, how with AI coming in, are we going to price? So fundamentally huge strategic decisions that are going to change our trajectory is what we, outsource and like make sure we run through proper means, but that also takes time. The DIY is more for the message testing, more for shorter like positioning things that we do.
Very cool. All right. Let's move on. Christine has asked a question. She said, when you're new at a company, how do you determine the most critical area for initial market research? So you're brand new into Airtable, Nate, and you're like, I need to do some market research. What do you do? How do you determine that?
Well, it's pretty relevant because I'm about 3 months into Airtable. And so I think it goes to like, I mean, as a product marketer, your most important thing is to understand your audience. So like, I kind of think of it as a hierarchy of like, do we have information that can help me understand my audience where I could start to form an opinion about like the key things that keep them up at night, what they're thinking about, what are their big focus areas, what's going to get them hired or promoted, what's going to get them fired. And so that's the first place I have to be able to answer. And if I can't answer that, then you've got to do research. And I think it kind of cascades from there as it goes out backwards, right? Or maybe not backwards, but forwards into like, well, what do we need to tell sellers? How are we going to build a story for this industry and that industry? But I think you kind of have to prioritize. If you're new into your role, they probably have lots of things for you to do out of the gate. And you have to answer, does the information I have available with me already that already exists can for you to make an informed opinion about the audience and the story I need to go tell? And if not, then you're going to have to say, hey guys, I need some time to go talk to customers or do a little research, because like, otherwise we're just going to hope and pray that what we put out there actually works versus actually coming with some information. So that's what I've learned. And at Airtable, I would say it's about 50-50. We had some stuff that was super usable, and I've started to connect my own side as well.
I can jump in next. I am in wild agreement with what Nate is saying. If you don't know anything, start with customer research. Start with understanding your audience, what their pain points are, what their day-to-day looks like. Almost follow them. Think about the words they use. Think about the problems they describe, the KPIs they're measured on. And I love what you said, Nate. What makes their careers and what will they be fired on? And that's just, in many companies, we sell to a buying committee. So it's not one person, it's the economic buyer, and it's the champion, and it's the end user, and it's the administrator. If you don't know where to start there. If you do know a little bit, or if you're new to the role, I would just add a little bit of a second layer to this. Try and understand what is ailing your GTM today. Do you have an awareness problem? Do you have a pipeline problem? Do you have a win rate problem? And that will help you, customer insights will solve for all of that. That'll just help you ask the right questions and hone in on the right tactics and the strategies to use. And frankly, that's an advice that goes beyond market research, which is as PMM, whatever we do in messaging, positioning, value prop, what part of the customer journey is it solving for? Is it solving for bringing more people into the funnel? Is it solving for moving them down the funnel? And a lot of us don't do a good job of making that difference. But if we can hone in into the problem we're solving and combine that with customer insights, your research projects are very, very impactful.
Yeah, I would plus one there to everything Sahil and Nate have already said. It's when you come into the company, it's not what research am I going to do? It is what do you not know, right? Like if you're going around and you're talking to people, hopefully you're doing some listening, and it's like, who is your customer? I've actually been at companies where they're like, I don't know who my customer is. So it's there. Like, who is actually your customer? If you ask 5 people across the company, are they going to say the same thing to you? And you have a good idea of who these people are and then why they come to you. Like, why are you winning with the people you're winning? And it kind of starts from there. And it's like, and I wouldn't say go out and do market research immediately. You might be able to find that information in-house, right? Like there is hacks into it we've talked about gong data. We've talked about call transcripts. Like, can you find that information before you go out and do research as well? I would start over there and then let that lead you in the business questions you're trying to answer.
Yeah, I like it. Things that I like to do, and this is like it's easier at like maybe like assembly scale, right? And I understand who my customers are. I start following them. I start following their ICP at the company. Like what gets them excited? So like LinkedIn almost becomes my market research feed because I'm following my customers, I'm following my competitors, I'm following like other PMMs, and see how they talk. What do they get excited about? And then you'll understand like who the influencers are in the ecosystem. You start following them, you start reaching out, you start liking theirs, commenting on theirs, right? And so my LinkedIn feed is very much like when we say professional network, it's like literally like assembly professional network, not like me and Sahil hanging out on LinkedIn, high five and liking each other's posts, right? It's something that I do. I like it. I found newsletters. I found, eventually, newsletter, influencers become part of our marketing strategy for launches and stuff like that. And so now I know who to go tap. But it's the one thing that's free that you can do. And so I just say that one as well of like think through some of those things that you can do. But Sahil, anything you want to add to that before we move on?
I was just reflecting on just doubling down and belaboring the point, how powerful tools like Gong and Outreach are when it comes to figuring out who your customer is. I'm reminded of the time when I started my product marketing career 15 years ago. I was at Microsoft and we would beg our sales reps to allow us to be a fly on the wall. That's the only way you would know your customer. Unless your customer is someone exactly like you don't know what a CIO is thinking. You don't know what a CMO is thinking. You're faking it if you pretend you do. And reading persona cards isn't enough. You have to be in the room, listening to their pain points. Now, when I start a new job and my team, when they come in, they just listen to 20 discovery calls, all recorded on and curated on a tool like Gong, and they're up and running, at least on that portion. This is a very, very, very powerful tool at all of our disposal, and most of us don't think of these as onboarding tools or research tools. So if you don't know where to start by listening to customer calls.
And I would add on there, and then it's take those calls, put them in a Claude or a Chat GPT or anywhere, and now you're getting these are the things that customers, you're getting themes of like every CIO buys my thing because of this. Every CIO has these same 5 questions that come up. Guess what? Create a sales enablement material off the back of that, or create a blog article off the back of it. And now you've got your SEO juice coming in as well.
Nice. Yes. Record meetings. Use Assembly to record all those meetings. So yeah, use us. No, that'd be great. No, I'm kidding. So I love this question. This one is such a good question. It's something that I think about all the time, or have thought about, right? It's Anonymous said, how will a PMM's research differ from a PM's research? So, you could probably imagine a Venn diagram. There's probably some overlap there. So how do you think about when you're partnering with your PMs, probably counterparts, how do you think about what they're doing, what they're researching versus like what you're bringing, and then maybe some of that overlap?
Yeah, I'll jump right in first here. I think it comes down to what we think a PM job to be done is versus a PMM job to be done. The research flows from there. And the way I describe this is a PM needs to know the customer, know the market, and know the product in order to build great products. A PMM needs to know the customer, know the market, and know the product in order to commercialize those products. Fundamentally, the inputs are the same. The outputs are different. It's like two chefs
Mhm.
using the same ingredients but making completely different recipes altogether. And so great PMs rely on market and customer insights. Great PMMs rely on market and customer insights. So I don't think the research is different. We share tools, we share insights, we share conversations all the time. It's what you do with those insights is different. PMs may use that to inform roadmap and features. And frankly, within the product organization, there's a specialist research team called UX research, which goes all the way into the look and feel of your product. And PMMs and all the sister teams to PMMs, whether it's brand, marketing, demand gen, campaigns, will take that and inform the words and the copy you tell the world. But when it comes to purely the business of doing research, we share a lot. We talk a lot. The pain points of the customers, the personas should fundamentally be the same. And we try and not create artificial barriers between PM's research and PMM's research. Nate, I see you're unmuted. I'm gonna pop into you.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. I was staying unmuted too, but I totally agree with that. I will add one, like maybe specialization is where I'd add that. Like if you're not sharing stuff with your PMs and they're not asking you for things and vice versa, like solve that first because you should be on the same page.
Yeah.
And I totally agree with that, Sahil, of like it is the same research in most cases, and you need to understand both because you guys should have the same picture of the world. Otherwise, things are going to go bad very fast. But the one place I'll say someone early on may have given this advice to me early in the career, but where I do think there is some difference, certainly at the ICPM level, maybe not as much at some of the PM leaders, is like I think they should specialize in the user of what they're building in a way, right? Where like I would expect my PM to know more about how someone in role is going to, like if I give Airtable example, is going to use and build with Airtable than I might, but I'm going to understand the person who's going to buy Airtable much better than they will. We both need each other. I can't operate without understanding the on-the-ground use cases and really deep in that. And they can't really understand the bigger context for how this is going to fit into someone's budget planning or why they're going to choose us over other, or may not choose us that way, but at least like why change and all of that. And so the one thing I'll add to what Sahil said is that like I do think there is some specialization where I am ultimately responsible for the buyer, and at least the ICPM. I think it's actually different as you get to leaders of PM. They should also own the buyer as well, frankly. But on the IC side, I think they should be specialized in the user, and that's a place where I've found works well in terms of that sharing of information too.
Plus, on to everything you guys said, I think the thing that resonated with me most was when Sahil, when you said the inputs and outputs. Inputs might be the same, the output is different, right? And I also think the timing might be different. Like a PM might be doing the research to inform the product roadmap. We are usually in the place of doing the research to inform what is, as Nate was saying, the market message and the selling story and how to connect with the customer. We like to put product in front of customers to say, well, how are you using this? What is the pain it's solving for you? How were you doing this before? And see from themselves and like, why are you picking us versus, Zendesk or Salesforce or anyone else? And it's that is helping us then inform the web, the blog, the demand gen, the collateral, the everything that we create off the back of it. Yeah.
Nice. All right. Nisha, this one goes back to you. Someone singled you out here. So they want to know, what agents have you created? And so maybe this is because of Kip and Kieran, and all their work. Maybe it's Dharmesh on agents.ai or whatever it may be, right? So, you get your leadership teams all in on agents is what I'm
Oh
getting
my
at. But
gosh, they are more. I know, I saw that. I was like, okay, that's interesting. They are all in. In fact, shameless plug for HubSpot, we had a day and a half of we called it Grow Day, where we had Kip and Karen and Yamini and like a whole bunch of our leaders come in and actually talk about how they're using and what they're using. Kip and Karen do it all the time. I have custom GPTs created, like essentially for example, right now in the midst of doing keynote writing season for
Mm.
our GMs, right? So this GPT is my keynote GPT. I feed it prior keynotes that I've written, tone and style of the GM I'm writing for, past presentations, what is our AI point of view, etc. And it has become my first drafter, my coach, my what am I missing? That's how I use it. Every time we go into board meeting, for example, once a quarter, we go into AI board meetings. I have a GPT that's custom to the board meetings. I actually have like all the profiles of the board members up there. And it's like when we put together a memo, it's like, tell me what I'm missing. If you were
Mm.
you were the person that was in the board meeting, how would he argue against this? What is what is missing from the logic that I need? So I ask it, and the memo actually it helps me get to a much better end state in a memo, or even in understanding what questions I can anticipate and where my gaps in reasoning are. So that I am, fulfilling on it. So I'd say at this point, I have a lot. I have a website GPT, custom GPT that helps me build web pages. And then you can basically put like, it basically is like, I'm trying to create an agent page, help me create it with this tone and voice and this narrative and the context I've fed it. And it's able to create it within seconds. And then you can actually put it in Lovable. And you can create a full working HTML right there. So yeah, I'm all in as well. It's pretty we're pretty heavy geeks around here. I don't know if
I
that
love
answers the
that.
question. I'd love for
No,
a way
that's
to be
good.
like, hey, did that answer the question? But yeah.
Yeah, if you're still on, you're still listening, feel free to chat and on that Q&A if that answered it or not. But I just want to like plus one your curiosity. I love that you're using AI with such like a way of thinking through how to make it better, right? And it's like not so much like just give me the output. And I think that's like the easy answer or like the baby step. It's really thinking through challenging and like your own thinking and like the rigor that you can put behind something, the question behind the question, what's their objective, what am I not thinking through? So I love that that you're thinking through some of those things outside of like building fun things in Lovable is cool too. But if you haven't checked them out, like go check out Lovable. I think they're like one of the fastest growing AI companies. Again, I think I see that every week too on LinkedIn, like how much faster they have grown. And I'm like, cool. Maybe someday that's us. No. Yeah. Cool. Nate and Sahil, have you guys played around with any agents? Do you have anything that you've automated with any like workflow stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Gong one is one I spent a bunch of time on. And so I was actually just using one right now where we have an AI. I mean, I think every launch is AI coming up. So we call that, I don't know why I said an AI launch coming up, but we're launching some new AI features pretty soon, right? Hey. And I think as part of that, what I've actually done is we're planning to do like this demo library of use cases. So I think, I don't know if other you guys have found this, like the best way to show AI, it's not is to show the demo of it, right? Because it's so not deterministic that you can't just have like a still frame anymore. That just doesn't work. Like you really need to show what it's doing, context report, all that. And so we've been coming up with a whole demo library to support the launch. And I've been using some of that agent to help me identify the right use cases to target, to come up with some of the ideas of how people might use this across our different functions that we support, different industries. And I don't think I would have gotten this far without it, right? It's really amazing where it can like spit out everything from like, if you think about not only just the demo flow that we should run inside of Airtable, the talk track, the key pains to hit, because I've informed it with what we're launching, what are the things we typically hear from customers, and it's like really making that process really fast.
Yeah, I think we've proven that Nate is more advanced than all of us when it comes to AI. No,
I don't know about that. It's some small targeted use cases, but
no, I think what we're doing is very similar to what Nisha is describing. It's a custom GPT, which is helping us, in uniform tone and voice. It's fed on our own content and our past messaging. I don't think we've yet hit a stage of we have a swarm of agents going around the organization doing tasks. There are lots and lots of conversations happening. And frankly, the conversations are happening not just within marketing or product marketing, they're happening across the company. So we do have an idea of which functions and which use cases to attack first. But no orchestration of agents for product marketing yet.
I mean, I will say it's
Nice.
also really good at strategy, you know. So if you have a certain goal and you're like backing out to say, hey, I'm trying to achieve X number of customer acquisitions, like this is what I've done so far. What else can we do to drive usage or new adoption? It actually gives you some pretty incredible strategy points. I know Kip has used it personally and been like, oh my gosh, this is better than I could have produced my own V1. So it's tremendous.
You heard it. Coming for the CMO of a Fortune 500. Be careful. No, I'm kidding. As it's only making Kip better. Like I know it's augmenting his own thinking, and in refining and making him better. But all right, we're gonna do this last question. We're gonna go fast so that way everyone can get out of here, hit their next meeting on time. And so this one, think through like your tip. So I'm gonna reword this one with how do you keep up with market intelligence with a busy schedule? So maybe like what is your like one tip that you would leave the audience with for how you keep up when you're so busy? I'm going to reiterate mine, and then that way give you guys more time to think. Mine's just LinkedIn. I have a very curated LinkedIn, and so like that's what it would say is my. You're super busy. You're never too busy for LinkedIn, though, right? You're bored. You're looking for a context switch, and you're just scrolling LinkedIn, and I'm getting the market intel. So that's my one tip. Nate, you look like you were going to say something.
Yeah, I'll be honest. Like I will ask GPT to do web search for me for a couple of different things, and I'll do it once a week and just have it keep up with you. Like I think there's something to be said for, yeah, there's still a lot of work for it to be automated. Like I don't have it automatically spitting me stuff, and that's something I want to get to. But at a minimum, like start using these LLMs to do some of this work, right? Like you can ask it, you can have the same prompt that you kick into it to go do a search for you every single week, and you can see what changes. And especially if you track it, you can ask it to tell you what changes too.
Yeah, I mean, mine is not rocket science. I have alerts and I have certain newsletters that I really love that help keep me on top of like the market. And they come into my mailbox and I look at them and I have like certain time in the day where I know I can just do deep work, which is normally super early in the morning before the kids wake up. And that's the time I reserve for just making sure I'm up to speed on things going on. But like, look, I would be kidding myself to say I know every competitor or like everything and what's happening. The market's changing too quick. So give yourself grace as well. But it's just making sure you're listening to the right things on alerts and staying informed that way.
Yeah. Plus one to everything you described. Curated LinkedIn is the single biggest way to get an idea of what's going on. Alerts help. Deep research is surprisingly very, very, very useful, especially if you prompt it right and, of course, feed it a little bit of an information or point it to a certain website. I will say, and this is just building on what you said, Nisha, I think like a lot of us are obsessed with real-time market intelligence and competitor intelligence. I don't think that matters as much as we think we do. What matters is, customer behavior takes time to change. And so it's okay to know about trends as they factor in real time, as they surface in real time. You don't have to react to all of them. And sometimes it's okay to be a little bit late, a tiny bit late. Because so I care about customer trends than market trends as much, if you may. And particularly when we start getting too competitor obsessed, we lose focus on being customer obsessed. And that's the fine line we have to maintain here.
All right. Well, with that, Sahil, Nisha, Nate, thank you so much for coming on and joining the panel for Mastering Market Research.